For great ideas and practical tools you can start using tomorrow to grow your business and separate you from the competition, you've come to the right place. If you're into B2B marketing and sales, then welcome to the one and only B2B Marketing and Sales Podcast. With over 60 and counting total years in the trenches of businesses small and large, they have a plethora of knowledge and experience that generate you more leads, capture more clients, ring up more sales. Well, doggone it, just make you more money. How about that? Always thought-provoking, yet dubiously entertaining. Please welcome to their respective microphones across 3 time zones, your co-ringmasters, the Dave Loomis, and not the rock star, Steve Miller.
Hey everybody, this is Steve Miller, better known as Kelly's dad, marketing gunslinger, and not the rock star. Let's just get that right out of the way first, okay? And then let's talk about the man. The voice.
The Dave Loomis.
The Dave Loomis. Oh my gosh. He is the voice. And thank you for joining us again on another episode. I feel like this is the Lone Ranger. You know, I remember the old, another episode, stuff like that. You know what? 90% of the people listening to us have never heard of the Lone Ranger. So
maybe 95.
Okay. Maybe 95. So anyway, this is our episode of the marketing and sales, B2B marketing and sales podcast. I am terrible at remembering the name of our own podcast, which just goes to show you there's no
branding.
Yeah, I'm doing my best.
It actually couldn't be a lot clearer than
we could come up with something very simple, but I would still muck it up. So Anyway, so the Dave Loomis, who is in my opinion, we actually first met, I'm going to say a year ago. And we met through a fellow named Greg Mischio. I believe it was Greg who either had done an interview with you or something like that. And I said, Greg, this guy is brilliant. If I had a British, like a Harry Potter, he's brilliant. I've got to say, he's brilliant. And I said, Greg, I got to meet this guy. And so he introduced us, and you and I chatted. And in the conversation, I think it was like our very first conversation, I said, we need to just talk, and we need to record these conversations because we have a ton of it. We have a ton of experience. Many years of experience. But the thing that I like about you that I don't like about most people who have the ton of experience that we have is that most people with a ton of experience get stuck in the old ways. And we are simply, you know what? We want our clients, our B2B clients, to succeed using any and all of the tools that are available to them today. Okay.
Correct.
And that includes tools from the past. So, and so we have this vast experience of going through the years of using the tools from the past, tools from the recent past to the tools of the present. And that's what I really like about, I enjoy talking with you about these things, because I know that we're going to see stuff that most people won't see. And one of the things that also drew me to you when Greg introduced us was your extensive experience in what is known as VOC, voice of the customer.
Not to be confused with volatile organic compounds.
Oh, you've had this conversation before then. Okay, because I actually was confused, a little bit.
In fact, recently, maybe this week, I had a conversation with somebody, and they were talking about volatile organic compounds and getting input from the marketplace. And I said, "Oh, you mean VOC for VOC?"
Yeah.
And they just kind of looked at me like they didn't think that was funny at all. But
Oh yeah.
people don't
See,
get
when
my
I saw
sense of humor.
when I saw VOC, my first reaction was very old cows. Why the heck would you want to talk about very old cows? But let's stick with
there's volatile organic compounds that come out of there too. So there could
yeah,
be
they do come out of
VOCs
those
or
very old
VOCs for
cows.
VOC if you're interviewing a cow.
Yep. But the voice of the customer, this to me is one of the single most important things that businesses can embrace and use to their advantage because and again, and we were just talking about the fact that I had a conversation with a client earlier today, and they were talking about this thing that they were offering to customers that was kind of it's a free, like, okay, here's a benefit for working with us that we want to give to you, and it's really worth a lot of money, but they're getting very little attraction, okay, or traction, I should say, with that.
I wonder why.
And I made the simple statement. I said, you know what? You and I might think we're offering them something that is unbelievable, but it doesn't matter what we think. It never matters. The only thing that matters is what they think. And that's where the voice of the customer comes in, because you got to learn about it. So I'm going to be your interviewer today, and I'm going to interview you starting right now. Here's my question. What is voice of the customer?
Excellent question. I had no idea. I'm just kidding.
I was afraid you were going to say that.
So
thank you for joining us on this episode.
Yes. Actually, there's a lot of confusion out there in the marketplace, because if you ask most companies, do you have a voice of customer program? They will tell you that they do. And then they will start running down the different ways that conduct voice of customer. Here are some of those. Our salespeople go out and talk to our customers all the time. Our field service people are out there all the time. We have a Net Promoter Score survey that we do all the time. And so NPS. And the list keeps going. So not many of those involve what I would consider to be true voice of the customer. There's somebody named Abby Griffin who was a scholar, and many years ago came up with that term in an article, and she invented that term actually as it related to new product development, but now it really has taken on much broader scope. But I like to think of voice of customer as typically a more qualitative effort that can take place at various stages of your involvement with a customer. So it could be, it could have to do with product development, in which case you could talk to them when you're trying to uncover unmet needs, like very, very blue sky. You could have a product concept that you want to bounce off of them. You could have a prototype that you want to bounce off of them. You could have a product out there already and you want to just see how things are going. But I do a lot of voice of customer that has to do with all sorts of topics. One would be, hey, why aren't you guys using this free offer that we give you?
Incredible benefit. Why aren't you using
benefit?
Right.
We think it's benefit, but it's obviously not to them, or they don't understand it, or whatever reason. You'd find out if you ask them. But I talk to customers a lot about the value proposition. I try to understand from them, how do they perceive my client and their brand, and what did they buy initially? Why do they keep buying? What do they really value? Because you can go to the website of my client, a number of my clients, and say, here's what it says about, here's what we love to say about ourselves. Here's what our salespeople love to say about ourselves, because they think that's the thing. That's the real ticket that gets them. And then you go and you listen to the customers and they say, actually, it's that customer service, or it's that XYZ, it's something. And it's not always the exact thing that you think it is. In fact, oftentimes it's not.
I think that, okay. So,
yeah. So that, to me, that's
okay. Go ahead. You finish
Yeah.
your thought. Finish your thought.
No, that's it. I mean, you asked what's voice of customer.
Yeah.
I think, that's it. And one last thing is that you can conduct this any sort of way you want. I mean, there should be no formula. That's the thing. People overthink this. Okay. There's lots of really in-depth methodologies. I'm certified in a bunch of them. And yes, those are great under certain circumstances.
I've been accused of being certified in some things too, but they don't.
Yeah, that's not what I said. No.
Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
Yeah. You could pick up the phone and talk to somebody for a couple of minutes. You could do a Zoom call for a half an hour. You could go out there and meet with them in person. Informally, formally, you could do VOC work over dinner. Or coffee, or whatever. The whole point is, that's the end of that. You probably have other questions.
Okay. Let me direct you in why VOC is actually harder than most people think it is. Because, like you said earlier, that a lot of companies will go, oh, our salespeople are talking to the customers all the time. Our other people, our customer service people, they're talking to them all the time. And I'm like, yeah, but are they asking the right questions? No. And then are they listening to the answers and stuff like that? And because for me, and reading your book and where you talk about voice of the customer, I'm remembering, I think, what you said, because I think this is where I learned it. Okay. Is that when you're doing voice of the customer, the point is, all right, I'm going to back. Okay. I'm going to rewind here for just a second. And I'm going to talk about something that I talk about all the time, and that is heuristics.
Okay.
And heuristics basically is that, in the simple way of describing heuristics, it's how we see the world, right? It's how we see the world. But here's the big thing about it, is that we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. Okay. That's the number one thing about heuristics. And what we need to recognize is that our customers have different heuristics. They see the world their way. We see the world our way. But the mistake we make is that then, as we look at them, we analyze, evaluate, and come up with answers based on our heuristics, not theirs.
We do. So you said, why is it so hard to do right? And I think there's a number of reasons, and the one that you just brought up is a big one. It's really mindset. So when we say salespeople go in there and talk to folks all the time, or maybe we send our field service or engineers or what have you to talk to customers, they're doing two things. They're selling or they're solving. And we love salespeople because they sell. But that's in their DNA. When they hear a customer problem, they try to connect it with something that we already have in our, in our cabinet, and tell them about it. And so they say, I'm having a problem with X. And instead of saying, oh, tell me more about that problem, they say, well, we've got the N33 XD. You know about that, right? No, I didn't know about the N30. Well, let me tell you about it. Blah, 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 blah.
Right.
What was that customer going to say when you brought up? Who knows? Who knows what they were going to say? The other thing is if you got an engineer in there, they want to solve it. So I'm having a problem with X. Really? Oh, well, what if you tried this? What if we moved the on-off switch to the side instead of the front, and then they get into that conversation. But think about how it goes when a customer says, I'm having a problem with X. Really? Tell me more about that. Well, it happens. This is what happens, blah, 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 blah. Oh, really? How often does that happen? Blah, 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 blah. Where and when?
And why is that important to you? Why is that
important to you? How does that impact you?
Right.
How does that impact you? Well, when that happens, we have to shut the line down. Oh, how much does that cost? Have you ever calculated how much it costs when you shut the line down? Well, yeah, it costs us like $30,000 a minute to shut our line down. What? You're kidding. So if we eliminated this problem, you wouldn't have to shut your line down. We'd save you $30,000 a minute. And there you have it. Because you almost are starting into understanding the value of solving the problem, but otherwise you wouldn't have gotten it, So what I say about VOC is that you have to think about before, during, and after the meeting. And before the meeting, you have to actually mentally prepare for it. And you have to mentally prepare to listen, to be a good listener. And part of that is just making sure that you're going into the meeting thinking that this is about them, not you. Do you really care? Do you really care authentically, honestly, etc., about finding out what's going on and them and helping them? If you do, then VOC is actually easy. There's no wrong question if your intention is right. So that's before the meeting, before a single word is ever uttered. If you set your mind right, then you can get off to the right start. And in the meeting, I have a whole bunch of different tips, but my favorite one is patience. You actually have to, when you ask that open-ended question, so what problems are you having? You have to wait. It's so awkward. It's so hard to wait because the human brain wants to answer in like 2.5 seconds. And we think that we're doing them a favor by filling in this empty space. Ooh, we see them struggling. We see them, we're going to help them. We're going to suggest something. We're going to lead the witness. Oh, okay. I'll bet this is a problem for you, right? Well, yeah, I guess it kind of is, yeah. Oh, okay, let's talk about that. If you just waited, what would they have said? Who knows? They might have told you something incredibly important. So we really need to be patient. And then the third is after a meeting, you've got to follow up. You prove that you were listening by following up and not even, you don't even have to take action on it. Just acknowledge the fact that, of what you heard, So to me, that kind of, I think of, do them a favor, not vice versa. Shut up and listen, and then act on what you learn.
And I mean, voice of the customer. I mean, you're talking about when you're able to get there with them face to face. In the ideal situation, you're able to sit down with them, regardless of where the environment is or anything like that. Yeah. But even in things like surveys, there are two kinds of surveys, and I think a lot of people don't realize that there's two types of research. One, and the best way to describe it is research is like the drunk leaning on the lamppost at night. Is the drunk leaning on the lamppost for support or illumination? Is your survey, is your research, is your interview designed to support a conclusion you've already made? Or are you looking for illumination? And I think you made a really important point there when you said like part 3, the after part, is that a huge complaint I hear from people very often is, oh, you guys do these surveys, or you do these focus groups or anything like that. We never hear about anything that you learned, or we never hear about any changes that are made. So, and I'm probably getting ahead of us here a little bit with this by saying this, but I think, you see, I think it's part of that in the voice of the customer is that it's about the customer.
Yes,
right?
It's called,
and from beginning to end,
voice of customer.
I know.
That's what it's
Our
called.
objective
it's not called
is to,
voice of me.
It's just to just shut up and listen. I mean, have questions, but and then like you also said, don't lead the witness. Don't say, don't turn it. Don't say something like, oh, well, our product does this. No, shut the F up.
Right. Well, see, this
now,
is
if I were Gary
V,
I wouldn't have said F, but
or you would have multiple times. So
yeah,
I think that a lot of research is done to confirm things that, we got a great idea, let's go. And then some executive says, well, you better go test that. Go out and talk to some customers and make sure that they like the idea. Even saying it that
See,
way.
just even saying that. Do they like the idea?
Of course they do.
Yeah.
Because you went and asked them.
Yeah, but could you put that on off switch over here instead?
Well, people are, at the end of the day, are fairly agreeable. And so when you suggest things to them, it's like they don't want to insult you and send you packing. They're like, oh, yeah, sure, you could put it over there. That's a good idea. Great. That's just what we needed to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
See you later.
Yeah. This was awesome.
Yeah.
That's what's awesome.
Now, the key to VOC is to, instead of understanding specifics or ideas or solutions, is to understand desired outcomes. I want to maximize my ability to turn on and off the equipment at a distance, or I want to minimize time required to turn on and off the equipment. Now, moving the on-off switch might be the way to do it, but now that you understand the desired outcome, your engineers, who are the smartest people on earth about your business, they might figure out something else. There's a remote start that you never even thought of. Maybe it's on all the time and there actually is no on-off switch. I mean, who the hell knows?
Yeah.
But you will come back to the customer and address their desired outcome, and you solve that for them, and they're like, holy, that's innovation. Wow. Right.
I will share an example of one of my clients that our clients, my smoking hot wife Kay. I have to,
of course,
recognize she's part of the team. So our clients, and they manufacture what is it called, rotary something machines. Anyway, they're these really cool machines that replace that, like one machine would replace like 10 lathes, in a machine shop, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so it's faster, it's more reliable. Ultimately, that is it's a lot cheaper for that. It takes less time, to do 1,000 of these pieces than it would be on those 10 lathes or anything like that. And they just simply couldn't get the attention of the marketplace. They just couldn't get these guys to because they said they're going.
Nobody
what
really
do you mean?
cares.
You don't want it? You don't want faster? You don't want cheaper or anything like that? And these guys are going, well, I don't want to. I've already paid for these machines. I'm going to keep these machines because they're paid for it. They're working just fine. They're filling our orders. and then I'm going to, in 10 years, I'm going to sell the business and leave. Right. And so for us, so we said, okay, there's something missing here that we're not paying attention to. Right. And so we went out, kind of did a voice of the customer. We reached out, talking to people, and every time we talked to people, they kind of kept coming back with this, well, I've already paid for these machines. I don't need to pay for any more. I want to keep going until I sell my business. All right. Yeah. And then we said, well, we asked the question, what if you couldn't sell your business?
And
they go, well, how would that happen? And we didn't know the answer. So what I did was I went out and I found a company who helped businesses like B2B manufacturers sell their companies.
I think I know where this is going.
And I asked the question, and I'm talking to this guy, and I asked the question. I said, what's the number one problem that you have with guys that are trying to sell their business? And he said, their business isn't worth as much as they think it is. Why not? Mm-hmm. Because their machines are old.
Uh-huh.
And all of a sudden I'm like,
bingo.
And so then I go back to the, and I asked the question. I said, how much do you think your business is worth? And they'd say something like, I don't know, 10 million, $20 million, something like that. I said, what if I told you that your business is only worth 4? Because you're holding on to these machines that you've already paid for. And it completely changed the perspective of both the customers that we were trying to talk to, as well as the company who was trying to sell these machines.
Would you have come up with that in a conference room back at the?
Not a chance. No, not a chance. I would never have, until all of a sudden I started hearing the words, sell my business.
Yeah. So this is a long time ago. I had a friend. He's actually he's kind of a famous food author. His name's Mike Ruhlman. Look him up. Ruhlman. Great books. And we grew up together, and now he's an author and all that. But he was trying to figure out, Loomis, I still don't understand what you do for a living. And I finally figured out how to tell him. I said, I'm a marketing private detective. And he's like, oh, okay. Now it's funny because anybody who's, we tape this and we put this on our YouTube channels. So there's a video of what you're hearing on this podcast. And on the video, if you watched it, Steve and I are both wearing hats today. So Steve's wearing a Panama hat, and I'm wearing
Panama Jack
that looks a little bit like a detective hat from the old days.
From the old days.
Yeah, and very strange.
We look good. We look good.
Steve and I, we do look really, really good. That is strange. But also, we bought these hats at the exact same store, which is so strange. But my point is, when we're doing voice of customer, think of yourself as a marketing private detective. And there's something to be found. There's some mystery that only you can unlock. And the only way to unlock it is by talking to customers and asking them open-ended questions, probing, and listening. And then you're going to find the mystery. You're going to find like these jewels or like Indiana Jones type stuff. And these are things that can totally turn your business around.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Competitors, I guarantee if you learn how to do voice of customer right in B2B, you will run circles around your competitors because they're doing it. They think they're doing it. So that's great. But they're doing it the way we started this whole conversation, which is, oh yeah, our sales guys go out there all the time and they're talking to people.
Yep.
And so let them do that, and let them think that they're doing VOC, and then you run circles around them.
Yep. And they don't know why.
Nope. How do they find that out?
What are they doing that is making them run circles around us? And
Yeah.
they don't know.
They don't know.
They don't know. So I think this is a conversation, again, it's like a lot of the topics that we have that we need to talk more about. I would encourage people that are listening to this or watching this to send us questions about that. Well, in particular, send the Dave Loomis questions about VOC. He's the pro from Dover. Basically anything that I know about it and that I've done pretty much has been stolen from him, even inadvertently. And, he's got it dialed in. And this is so important for businesses. So we're out of time today. And so I'm going to say to my partner in crime, take us out of here. We will talk about this topic again sometime soon, but not next week. We've got another topic for you next week. What is our topic for next week?
Well, this was suggested by by Justin, a loyal listener, and it is marketing and sales departments. How do they coexist?
They hate each other.
This is going to be fun.
They hate each other.
You're giving it away.
I know, but they hate each other. So
giving it away. Okay, that's for next time. So this has been the B2B Marketing and Sales Podcast. See,
notice how he gets it right the first time. Every time he gets it right the first time. So
it was not that hard to say.
Not for you.
And it's with Steve Miller, who is not the rock star, and myself, Dave Loomis, the Dave Loomis, the voice. And that's it. Thanks for joining me. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the one and only B2B Marketing and Sales Podcast, the source for B2B marketing and sales insight. If you enjoyed the podcast, please be sure to subscribe and leave these old guys a 5-star rating. Check the show notes for any links and contact information. You can always contact us by going to b2bmarketingsalespodcast.com. Thank you, and keep on marketing, keep on selling.